This is day 459 of Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you'd like to sponsor upcoming share more of Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please contact me directly. Very greatly appreciated. Today we're doing Siman Shin Beis. Sif Yud Beis. Do Siman Shin Beis. Sif Yud Ches. Yud Beis. Mordechai Shalom Kasav Zel Shalom. Kasav Rabbi Yashmani Nav Lisa Shem Levanim Shein Tzarech Lo Bo Bayom. White talesos, which are we don't need for that day. Achar Tzeitzim Beis HaKnesses, also Kaplan. After you leave shul, you're not allowed to fold them. Ben Chadoshim, Ben Yeshanim. Excuse me, whether they are new or old. I feel about them echad, even if it's only one person folding them. Bani Mile, this is only true. But say the Kippur Rishon, when you're folding it along the original lines. But if it's not according to the original lines, mutter to mitzvah afilu b'shnei adam, even if two people are doing it, ad kan l'shalom. The BCS brings it down and says that this is logical. So arrive at that time, and even according to Tosfos, arrive at the reason because of unnecessary toil. There's a difference between whether it's on the lines or not on the lines. Also, it's that way. It draws a distinction. Twitch says the reason is because of fixing. Because of the Chadashim Levanim Einat Tikun Kol Kach. He writes, and they're new and white, there's not so much fixing. Alright, Sham. Rashi Borkein, Sham. Seems to hold the same way. Many people, they do fold their talesim on Shabbos. They must hold. The Bekiba Shalon are folding, Leiko Shum Tikun, there's no fixing. Tam Tir Los Firle, and they don't hold the reason of Tircha. Kedas Rashi, I'm not sure about Shulchan Aruch. The Chen Kosav Abukobo, Zelushana. The Abukobo writes, today we fold all garments. After the Kibbutz done, low down the Kibbutz. Our folding is not like their folding. They were very meticulous in spreading out the creases. But that's not the way we do things. The bracket says, Din, the base yad, okay, whatever these are. Other places where this is discussed. So it says with Tzarech which halachas they brought down, which halachas they didn't bring down. Why did they bring down? Setting the beds is what making the beds is what bothers him. Why it's not brought down here in Shulchan Aruch. The Mishnah Berurah writes that it's also to fold a talis if you're not wearing it that day. I guess if you're going to wear it that day, so you'll have to fold it up. If you're not going to wear it additionally that day, so it's achana for Motzei Shabbos, for after Shabbos, and that's not permissible. In that about setting the beds, making the beds from Shabbos to Motzei Shabbos near the Zeug Shemitos Omni Mechad Mitos Shenochim Sham Koyam. That's if they're in the bedroom and nobody goes the entire day. Let's say and now that it's one of the rooms of the house. They don't set them on good mode. It would be degrading. Allowed to make them because of the adornment of the house. I remember when I was very young, in 7th grade, I went to visit a friend of mine who lived in Geula, learning Chorev at the time, and the beds were in the living room. That's the way they lived back then, and perhaps they still live that way in Geula today. The children had their own room, the parents slept in the living room, and the beds at night folded out, and during the day were folded back as couches, and of course you can make those beds during the day. Before to cover Shabbos, especially to cover Shabbos, this is the widespread minhag everywhere. Also, we can say the reason is because we hold rak time with the misakin. The whole issue we have is fixing. But when we make beds, it's not called fixing. After all, we also fold the nice tablecloths after the meal. We didn't find anybody who protests this. About korcha, we must say it's not considered to be tikkun. Shabbos to Shabbos. That says you're allowed to set the beds from Friday night to Shabbos. If you're making the beds in order to sleep in them, like folding back the blankets, that's better during the day, during the daytime. Akvia dua had such lowly shan, but making the bed not in order to sleep. Yosa noam atzalishan is nicer than the setting the bed to sleep. And therefore, before Shabbos begins, we make the beds and adorn them to cover Shabbos, not for the way of, not for manner of sleeping. After Friday meal, you can make the beds in a way to prepare them for sleeping. I must come else simon race on base. You doubt mechbasha balbais. Different topic. A press of a balbas. It's the vessel with which you, the tool, the machine with which you press garments after they're washed. There are two planks. And you put the garments between the two of them. And there's something to clip them together. You can undo the clipping together to take garments for the purpose of Shabbos. But if it's a craftsman's press, it's awesome. Because it's very, very strongly clipped together to apply more pressure. And to loosen it is like breaking it down. The Rama have a time issue muktzah. The Rama issue is muktzah. In other words, it's kind of the press is muktzah. And to put them in the press on Shabbos is certainly forbidden. Even if it's a press about Ba'abos. It's a craftsman press, you shouldn't touch it at all. Or mishum muktzah Rambam, either because it's muktzah like the Rambam. There's muktzah machas ches on keys. It's a muktzah of something very valuable. Shem makpid alav, because you're concerned about it and meticulous about it. Or maybe you're afraid you're going to come to undo it, which of course we said is very similar to soser. Mishnah Berurah says if the press was slightly loosened from before Shabbos, some people say nevertheless you're allowed to completely loosen it and remove the kalim from inside, and some people are meko. Tezvav. Hachaluk la'achar krisa, a robe after washing, humiskashe becomes hard. When you hand dry things, they become hard, and they rub it with the hands in order to soften it. It's not like bleaching. Also, it only has mind to soften it. When it gets a little bit soft, he stops rubbing. But it's not like bleaching. But a sudar, which is a more formal garment, it's usher mipnei because that you have a mind to polish it, so to speak. And that is like bleaching. Bialacha said perhaps it's only a problem by a sudar made of linen, which obviously gets is very much more delicate than wool. And Arukh HaShulchan goes on and says, Kavoim b'shar klei pishtan, hats and other linen garments, they're like this sudar, like this blouse or this shirt. Let's say the leka sudar, we don't wear a sudar anymore, whatever it was back then, this blouse. And also, we don't know about polishing hats. The near the zel raki they pishtan. This seems the only true about lineage. That after washing, not a question, they became particularly hard. By their shivshuv, by rubbing them, they become soft. But evidently the whiteness or the shine becomes more brilliant by the rubbing. Let's say like a big t-shirt. By us, it's very rare to have linen garments altogether. Besides for robe and pants, we also don't see they get tough, harder after we wash them. This is where he said, our ironing is like their washing. In other words, they were very, very advanced in how they dealt with garments. The water was very, very good for washing. In our garments, they don't get so bleached that they should be by just washing alone. They should be considered to be ironed. In practice, says minhagam kaskom yadayim. The is to rub them like this with one's hands. It's good because we don't have the same type of efficient washing and scrubbing. Mishabur writes, by a robe it's permissible to rub even if it's of linen, because it's like it's considered to be a undergarment. So I guess this kind of robe is like a pajama shirt, and it's done seen outside. So Mistami has in mind to soften it and not to make it look more brilliant. And the Bir Halacha does not like the minhag of rubbing with one's hands, and it's not appropriate. And this minhag could only be true by this robe, which was an underrobe, like the pajama shirt, extended pajama shirt, but not in a regular garment which one wears on the outside, where it's kind of you have in mind in order to make it more brilliant in appearance. Tezai, teacher al gabi bigdal. If you have mud on your garment, you want to remove it. You rub it on the other side. In other words, if the mud is out here, you rub it on this side, on the inside, in order for it to fall off. It's not obvious that you're being malabin. And it's not actually malabin. It's not even Mexican, but it's certainly not actual malabin. Because that water, it's not considered to be malabin. But don't scrub it on the outside where the mud is, because then it looks like malabin. But you can't scrape off the mud, whether it's with your nail or whether it's a knife. That's not considered malacha. Some say only moist mud you can get off. If it's dry, it's forbidden to scrape it off. It's like grinding. Even though you're not grinding for the purpose of grinding, you're grinding to get it off the good clothing. Still awesome. Rama awesome and Rama awesome midoraisa. Doesn't matter what garment. Talk about benchum, pitch them, whether it's linen, benchum, tamer, whether it's wool, benchum, or meshi, or silk. Specifically with this substance of mud. That when you scratch it off, nothing piruim, that it comes up in fine crumbs. It's like grinding. If there's only the look of the mud as opposed to substance of the mud, mutter, it's permissible. It's not grinding. This is true about all sorts of dirt which have in the garment. And the truth is that this whole concept of grinding is only a chumrah. Is this really grinding? And do you want it ground? He couldn't care less if it's ground or not, as long as it gets off his garment. Bishop writes that he says, nevertheless, perhaps you have in mind to make the garment enhanced, and to make it more polished or brilliant. So there, it's malabi. According to the Taz, whose make will be only mutter to scrape off with a nail, or to rub it from the inside. But the rub from the outside, it's also no matter what. Okay, so he argues on the Arukh HaShulchan who says it's really a chumrah. I believe the meaning is I shouldn't say. Arukh HaShulchan's make Mr. Brewer's machmir. You tell Avamino Asul Gared, a shoe you can't scrape, Ben Masakin, Ben Mitziporin, whether it's with your with a knife or with a nail, Ben Chadash, Ben Chadash, whether it's a new shoe, an old shoe. It's called it for because you scrape a part of the hide of the shoe, and that is like polishing. So the Mishnah Berurah says that If it's soft mud, it doesn't matter. Because you're not going to scrape the shoe. If it's hard, if the mud is hardened already, then you should be nizar l'chatchila. Be careful not to do it. The teacher Raglov says that Arukh HaShulchan, it's on your legs, or if your shoes, mekankla b'kaisa b'kara, rubbing up on the wall or on the beam. Mishabur says certainly on the wall it's okay. I guess on the beam is not so simple. In any event, don't rub it on the ground. Because it might come to smooth out holes in the ground. In other words, you have forget and you're going to have a mind to smooth out the depressions in the ground. If not, because you don't have that in mind, it's something which you don't intend to do. Love it, it's not for sure going to happen. To scrape a shoe with metal is forbidden. It's like polishing. I guess it's more like working the hide, but the same principle. If the metal is sharp at its end. So therefore, by us in front of the shoe where there's a sharp metal, which are weak, they use in order to wipe off the shoes. These are that be careful. Shalolas such game b'Shabbos, not do this on Shabbos. But if the metal is not sharp, it's rather broad and dull on its head, it's permissible. But even on this, Chshuvim says preferable to be machmir. Mishabur says that's only if you do it strenuously. If you're doing it very gently, you're going to be machmir, and especially if it's moist, mud, there's no reason to be machmir. You don't have to be machmir. Back to our Shulchan, some will say now to rub your mud cake shoe against the wall of stones. It looks like you're adding onto the building. And those are permit both on the wall and on the ground. Because things that being on the wall, it's not to be the manner of building. But when it's on the ground, it's something where you don't have any kavanah. For the mutal you also have to remove mud or excrement with a piece of pottery which is suitable to carry. Which is not muktzeh. Such if it's suitable for covering a vessel and similar potentialities. Mishabur writes that on a wooden wall, it's for sure mutter because it doesn't look like you're adding on to the garment. Adding onto the wall. Sorry, it doesn't look like you're adding onto the wall. Yulches. If there was some dirt on the beged, on the garment, karok, something dirty, not dirt, like rok, like saliva, or excrement, etc. Mechanical but smartut. You can wipe it off with a rag. I've loved mine, but you can't use water. It goes without saying you can't scrub that place with water. Feel the shpocha makam to even to spill a little bit of water on the dirty place. It's us, it's forbidden. The zel kibusa, because that's how you wash it. Kibus malacha mishum labin. The kibus is a main category of malacha because it bleaches. No rubbing with water is language is a bit strange, but all types of rubbing with water are forbidden in the garment. If you use a simple rag, you can clean it with cow. Wipe gently. And not with pressure. Penny because might come to squeeze out. If you can use other liquids for this purpose, use bar b'simichin. You test to explain later on. But a dirty shoe, last but water in order to rub it. But to literally launder it. Rub one side of the shoe against the other side of the other shoe. That's also. Time the neighbor Arukh HaShulchan lo shah kibus klau. So when it's tough hide, there's no kibus at all. Some Mishabur does bring on some people hold there is, and he Mishabur holds there is. It was laundering also by hides, but the Arukh HaShulchan says there isn't. People are rocking even in soft hides. The shayach bei kibus, there you might be able to entertain the notion that there's laundering. Come dafka kibus kama. It's only if they're doing actual laundering. Avalomir or kibeged the shriyasin sosim mine. Love have a zel kibus. So we don't say that leather is like a fabric where soaking it or putting water on it is considered ready to be washing. Hamish Zvachim, Ayin Sham is explicit in Zvachim. The bracket says, Yeshim Kibus Por B'Cholin Yon. Those people forbid washing leather no matter what, which is, Mishnah said that. Rashid Dazu Tzarech and Gadol, and that requires great analysis. The Mishnah Berurah also, to underline that he argues, says here that it seems that, for any Boskim, that it's an Isser to wash leather regardless. Nevertheless, putting water on the, well, it's only mutter to do a rubbing, dry rubbing, but not using any kind of water, even by hides.